Tested, 2022 BMW i4 eDrive 40 Gran Coupe breaks the ice. The electrified 4 Series Gran Coupe makes mincemeat of its 430i gasoline-powered counterpart, and we found meeting or beating its EPA range estimate to be easy. To anyone who is concerned that electrification would ruin BMW's core sedans, all we can say is this: you have nothing to worry about. The future looks bright, even at the single-motor end of the spectrum where the rear-drive 2022 BMW i4 eDrive 40 resides. As its designation suggests, the i4 is a NEV take on the 4 Series Gran Coupe. Its sleek four-door sedan-esque body is indistinguishable from its gas-powered counterparts and features the same longer roofline, frameless door glass, and rear liftgate rather than trunk. This absolutely works in the i4's favor, as the Gran Coupe offers superior rear seat space and better cargo access than any 3 Series sedan. And it looks fantastic to boot. Besides, the name i3 was already taken. We've previously tested, and been mightily impressed with, the high-performance variant of the i4, the M50, calling it an M3 because, among other things, it outaccelerated the last M3 competition we tested. The eDrive 40 is the more mainstream, less expensive version, but in many ways that makes it an even more compelling EV, not to mention a serious alternative to its gasoline-powered counterpart, the BMW 430i Gran Coupe. Eye-speeding performance. In contrast to the M50, with dual motors making 536 horsepower and powering all 4 wheels, the eDrive 40 has a single rear-mounted motor that sends 335 horses to its rear wheels. Still, that easily outclasses the 430i, whose turbocharged 2.0-liter inline-4 puts out just 255 horsepower. At the track, our eDrive 40 scampered to 60 miles per hour in 4.8 seconds and dusted the quarter mile in 13.4 seconds at 106 miles per hour. That makes it quicker than a rear-drive Tesla Model 3 long range, which reached 60 miles per hour in 5.0 seconds and crossed the stripe in 13.8 seconds at 101 miles per hour. Meanwhile, the last 430i we tested, admittedly a convertible, not a Gran Coupe, their engines are identical, and weight differs by little more than 100 pounds, achieved 60 miles per hour in 5.5 seconds and covered the quarter mile in 14.1 seconds at 98 miles per hour. Bottom line, the single-motor i4 is sufficiently quick. Highs, longer range than an M50, well-controlled ride, attractive and intuitive curved display screen. It turns out to be even quicker in real-world acceleration situations, where direct drive and instant torque, the 317 pounds-to-foot peak begins at 0 RPM and carries on to 5,000, leads to total annihilation of the 430i, which must build boost and kick down to a lower cog in its 8-speed automatic before it can head off in pursuit. The eDrive 40 handles the 5 to 60 mile/hour street start test in 5.1 seconds. Whereas the 430i needs 6.8 seconds. The rear-drive i4's passing times of 2.0 seconds from 30 to 50 miles per hour and 2.9 seconds from 50 to 70 miles per hour are even more telling, with the 430i requiring 3.4 and 4.0 seconds, respectively. BMW i4 range results. It's not all about speed. Range, the other side of the EV coin, is an even bigger concern to many, and here the i4 eDrive 40 handily outperforms the M50. Both i4 variants use the same 81.5 kWh liquid-cooled lithium-ion battery pack, and as is typical in such cases, the less powerful single-motor car delivers greater range. For the eDrive 40, that's an EPA-rated 301 miles with 18-inch wheels or 282 miles with the optional 19s, versus the M50's 270 miles on 19-inch rolling stock or just 227 miles with high-performance 20-inch rubber. Our eDrive 40 tester was fitted with summer-spec Hankook Ventus S1 Evo 3 19-inch performance rubber, and it essentially equaled its 282-mile EPA rating in our more severe 75-mile-per-hour highway range test by delivering a 280-mile result. Our 75-mile-per-hour consumption worked out to 107 mg, which easily surpassed the EPA rating of 99 mph combined, 100 city, 98 highway. It gets better, we averaged 108 mph over the 1,336 miles we had the car. This included 130 mph on a 158-mile random mix of city and highway driving, where light traffic held freeway speeds between 60 and 70 miles per hour. Our maximum attack run on Angeles Crest Highway was our worst tank at 85 mph, which maintained respectability because routine highway driving was part of getting there and back. EV sounds and Reagan braking. In the M50, we found the synthesized EV interior sounds to be overbearing, but here the iconic sounds electric, a side dish to the $875 Harman Kardon surround sound stereo upgrade, which you absolutely want, is less noticeable and can be turned off anyway, the better to enjoy the silence. Our eDrive 40 emitted just 64 decibels in both the 70-mile-per-hour cruise and wide-open acceleration tests, which pretty much means you're simply hearing hushed levels of wind noise enveloping the sleek bodywork. We were fortunate to sample two different eDrive 40s on two different coasts. Both ran on 19-inch tires. One had the dynamic handling package, $1,750, which includes variable sport steering, adaptive M suspension, and M Sport brakes, while the other had the standard brakes and fixed dampers. The standard spec car is the one that landed near our West Coast testing grounds, so that's the one we tested. In both cases, brake regeneration is adjustable. A lateral slap of the shifter into the B setting represents an instant shortcut to the strongest level, but drive can be programmed to deliver 4 other levels: low, coast, medium, high, and adaptive. Making that change requires delving into an on-screen menu, but with B always at the ready, an owner is likely to decide on a favorite drive setting early and toggle between the two with the shifter from there on out. Lows, not crazy fast like the M50, rear-only Reagan can make the friction brakes feel grabby. That max Reagan setting in the M50 rises to the level of one-pedal driving, but not so here unless you allow more space. Unlike in the dual-motor M50, Reagan acts solely on the eDrive 40's rear axle. Whenever you add friction brakes midstream, you're suddenly involving the front axle and initiating weight transfer mid-stop. In certain Reagan settings, this can make the brakes feel grabby toward the end of a stop, particularly with the M Sport brakes, which have more initial bite and 14.7-inch front rotors instead of 13.7 inches. On the test track we engaged the lowest Reagan setting so the friction brakes did all the work. The result was a 169-foot stop from 70 miles per hour and 365 feet from 100 miles per hour, with the standard brake setup displaying excellent control and absolutely zero fade. On the skid pad, our eDrive 40 orbited the circle to the tune of 0.87 grams, a smidge less than the 0.90 grams we saw in a 430i. But the i4's balance is far more neutral, to the point where disengaging the stability control is an instant ticket to an unofficial drift mode. We suspect the difference boils down to our test car's 4,699-pound weight, plus the use of the same 245/40R19 front and 255/40R19 rear tire sizes despite the eDrive 40's more rear-biased weight loading of 55%, versus 52%. On the road, both suspension setups feel engaging and well-controlled. The version with the dynamic handling package struck the same tone as the M50, with the adaptive damper system sport setting providing sharp response and the comfort setting providing just what the name implies, agreeable daily drive comfort. But the standard fixed damping of our West Coast tester didn't feel substandard, as it ingested all manner of road imperfections with aplomb and pasted a huge grin on our face when we pushed it hard in the mountains. We also found its steering to be accurate and predictable, even though it lacked the variable ratio rack of the East Coast car. Agreeable in cabin tech. Inside, the driving environment is every bit as stylish, impeccably crafted, and logical as the M50, with the lack of carbon fiber trim not spoiling the mood one bit. Perhaps that's because our car was fitted with optional Vernasca leather seats, $1,450, and the tech-fabulous curved display screen, $1,000, which comes paired with a head-up display. It's easy to scroll through the various menus using the touchscreen directly or the rotary controller, which remains a welcome means of navigation both between and within function areas, such as for selecting satellite radio stations or searching for a phone contact. The curved display is a prerequisite for the $1,700 Driver's Assistance Pro package, because the screen hides a set of infrared driver monitoring sensors, which allow the very capable lane centering feature to become truly hands-free at 40 miles per hour and below. Status lights turn green on the steering wheel spokes when the system is available, but they'll turn yellow as a sound is emitted if your gaze drifts away or traffic speed increases beyond 40 miles per hour. It works brilliantly, but it certainly is an option you can skip if your driving routine doesn't typically include traffic jams. At a starting figure of $56,395, the eDrive 40 chops a hair over $10,000 off the price of the M50. It's also about $10,000 more than the gas-powered 430i Gran Coupe. But it is eligible for the maximum $7,500 federal tax credit, which can typically be folded into a lease deal even if you don't qualify outright. Even without that, the eDrive 40 is absolutely worth the premium. It's a fantastic look into an electrified BMW future that doesn't leave fans of the brand out in the cold.